loving him. Then Sue came along, loved me strong, that's what I thought. Me and Sue, but I do. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a girl that'll stay and won't play games behind me, and I'll be what I am, a solitary man, solitary man. I've had to hear being where love's a small word, part-time thing, paper ring. I know it's been done having one girl who loves you, right or wrong, we go strong. Don't know that I will, but until I can find me a girl that'll stay and won't play games behind me, I'll be what I
And Spotlight.
Personally, I still think Revenant should have gotten it. It was robbed.
No, you know what? I thought Spotlight was really, really good. I agree that it wasn't the best film of the year, but in the genre that it belongs to, the journalism and mystery genre,
It was right up there.
it is definitely right up there. And I believe it's just as good as All the President's Men, made in 1976.
But Spotlight, I mean, how can best film Oscar film that was awarded be? This is the first film since I think 1952 in the Oscars.
Yeah.
It's only got two Academy Awards, and it's the best film. It only won 2 awards,
Oh, you mean
including best
for the film that got best film? It's the only one since 1952 that only won one other award.
Exactly. That's
Interesting.
it.
Really?
Yeah. Michael
I didn't
Keaton
know
was
that.
nominated. So many people were nominated.
Yeah.
Rachel McAdams was
Yeah, yeah.
nominated. Mark Ruffalo was nominated Best
Yeah,
Supporting Actor. And
You know what I find most remarkable about the film is that Spotlight. Michael Keaton hasn't been in the spotlight for so many years. Last year he was in Birdman, that won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's in the spotlight again. He's getting all this attention, and now he's in another film in the second consecutive year that wins Best Picture.
Yeah. After
So I think
Birdman.
to him that's a revitalized career.
Same director.
Same director. as well.
Iñárritu.
Alejandro González Iñárritu.
Sí,
And
señor.
this man is not only Mexico's greatest film director,
Oh, he's
but
so good. Yeah.
he's just getting such a good rap 2 years in a
That's,
row.
I hate to repeat myself, but I think that Revenant was just so good on so many levels. It was cinematic, was good. We talked about the natural light, we talked about all that, but I don't know about Spotlight winning.
But it's not
it's still a
about
very good film.
cinematography. It's not about the budget. It's about the drama. It's about the dialogue. It's about the character development. It's about
all
the acting.
that. It is.
And
It's about all
Spotlight
that.
really fits into that category. I don't believe it should have won Best Picture.
No, it's basically
But it
procedural.
most certainly deserves to be nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
But it's very procedural.
Yeah.
Some of the other. But there's so many good.
And it
things,
has the same energy, I believe, that All the President's Men did. And also The Insider. Remember the 1999 movie with Al Pacino and Russell Crowe?
I don't remember.
Russell Crowe.
It was, yeah.
Russell Crowe and Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Spotlight is the kind of journalism film we haven't seen in a long time. I remember in the 90s we had movies like The Pelican Brief and The Insider.
Oh, The Pelican Brief, was that so good?
Brilliant.
Julia Roberts.
Also by Alan
and
J. Pakula.
And Denzel Washington,
Yeah.
It was just a really, really good film.
Yeah.
Very much
It's an
like
amazing
Spotlight.
film.
Investigative journalism.
Yeah,
And
look,
Michael-
of all the films out there, Spotlight really feels like All the President's Men because they spend
does.
so much time in the newsroom.
The newsroom, yeah.
You know, they're all just sitting there and exchanging information and sharing all the research that they've done. And
That Washington, D.C. newsroom, it's incredible.
Yeah.
They totally rebuilt that whole newsroom, that desk, the
Yeah,
phones and
yeah.
everything, and all the people
Looks
in the
so-
Burbank studio
Yeah.
for $500,000. Just for that one set, and the whole film was in that set.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 1976, All the President's Men. Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford, they were so young.
You know what fascinates me about that story not only that it's true, but that you have two men,
Bob Woodward and
Carl Bernstein.
Yeah.
Incredible men, just two men solved this great mystery that was one of the biggest cover-ups, or attempted cover-ups in US history.
Pakula wanted to make it much more real.
Yeah.
He wanted to make it much more complicated. All these bits of information coming, all the investigative journalists and all these things happening. And we had to work so hard to get, you remember looking at it.
Yeah,
we had to work so hard to follow everything. And the bits of paper, everything, things going all over the place. It's incredible. But, and another thing, similar to that.
And it's so dangerous.
Robert Redford was his production company produced it. And he, that's incredible. He was the big star at the time. Warner only wanted to make this film, but they had the biggest star at the time, Redford, playing it. Hoffman wasn't on board yet, but it was Redford was the big star, and Redford, his production company, doing it. He wasn't technically a producer. He wanted an equal big star because he didn't want to overshadow the guy. These two guys were working together, Woodward and Bernstein. So what he did is he approached, this is incredible, I saw this, he approached Dustin Hoffman at a New York Knicks basketball game. He said, look, why don't you come on board like this? So he nailed him on it. So he had an equally big star, as you said. He was in Tootsie and all these other ones. It was incredible.
And one of the most famous writers was brought on, William Goldman. Who also produced, he wrote for a few Dustin Hoffman movies as well, like Marathon Man and,
Oh, wow, that was quick. That was with a smile. Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful,
Brilliant,
thanking you.
He did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Papillon.
Goldman
with,
was the screenwriter. Very good. He did all these films.
What
was the problem?
Famous.
What was the problem? We had a screenplay for this about two writers.
Yeah.
So Carl Bernstein brought in it.
Carl Bernstein came in to rewrite it because
he brought in a script, and the script that he brought in, Goldman walked out and didn't even read it. It would cause a bit of friction.
Caused a bit of friction, and Robert Redford read the first draft of Goldman's script, and he really didn't like it.
No.
So there were a lot of tensions in
Woodward.
pre-production.
So he played on Woodward as a sort of a Boy Scout helper, and they were chasing women to the thing, and it got away from the plot a bit, I think. This is delicious.
It just goes to show that even the most famous screenwriters have their ups and downs. They don't know how to approach certain scripts. Thank you so much. They don't know how to approach certain scripts and stories and adapt true life, adaptations, the way they've done more fiction.
Robert Redford was talking to Carl Bernstein when he was writing the book, and this All the President's Men, of course, was based on the book that he wrote with Woodward. And he advised Bernstein to make the story more about how they did it, what they went, what they did, rather than actually the people involved and this person did that, this politician did that, the actual program of events, the actual process of what they did. And that's what we saw in the movie. Fantastic. How did they do this?
Because the movie only covered the first 7 months of the Watergate scandal. I mean, it really began with the burglars when they broke into the...
it was a balls up.
What was it? The committee for the Democratic...
The committee to re-elect the president. And that stood for creep.
No. The committee to re-elect the president was Nixon's part of Nixon's administration. They broke into the Watergate building because that was the headquarters for the...
Oh, the Democratic Party, the other party. Yeah.
It was the headquarters for the National Democratic Committee. And Nixon's best interest was to know everything that they know, hear all their conversations, and always be one step ahead of them during this re-election campaign. Through some other players, he was able to hire the services of 5 individuals to break into the building and attempt to bug that headquarter.
I mean, this was the White House. I mean, they can do no wrong. They are very powerful, and yet it was just a total balls up. It was just, they really screwed it up. There was very little security on that.
The only mistake they made was taping the lock to the door and leaving it open for the security guard. If they didn't make that small, tiny mistake, it would never have exploded into all the bigger and greater things that came after.
I'm not so sure.
It was just it was a beginning of a mass chain reaction.
I'm not so sure. There was a lot of investigation going on there. And the other thing about that, you know, the incredible role played by Deep Throat, which they only had one choice.
Hal Holbrook, such a great actor.
There's only one choice they had, and he's the one to do it, and he was just perfect for that role.
Yeah.
The thing he said throughout the whole film, follow the money, follow the money. That's a key part of the film. That wasn't in the book at all. It wasn't in any Watergate transcripts. It just did not exist. It was fabricated by Goldman, follow the money. He added that in himself. Yeah.
You see, he's a genius.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
And of course, that whole situation led to the the constitutional crisis, where nobody knew who was going to administer the government anymore. And Nixon had to hand in the tapes to the Congress because there was a massive Supreme Court order to hand over all evidence during that investigation, and Nixon was forced to resign.
But that...
Which was not covered in the movie.
That all came out later, wasn't even a movie. And that's what I find out fascinating.
I suppose it's not really important, because the most important thing is that they discredited him.
They did.
They destroyed him, and that's that.
But the thing was, we were talking about Spotlight before, this fantastic current film. The thing that's similar to both these films is it wasn't resolved, as you said, in All the President. It ended with Nixon's inauguration, and none of it was followed through. It was frustrating for them, although that, as you said, it did come later. And the same thing with Spotlight. None of these priests were actually charged in the end of Spotlight. They were just frustrating. They got to this, they did this. It all came later. And it's also happening now with this business of Pell testifying. Isn't that a joke?
You know what's good about Spotlight, though? I like the fact that it didn't have a resolution at the end, because it was symbolic in the way that this is happening all over the world. Do you remember they showed a list of all the locations in the world where priests have been exposed? So in ending like that, where there is no resolution, it implies that it's happening all over the world. It's continuously going on. People are being exposed. Children are continuously being sexually abused. And regardless of whether it's being resolved in one place, it continues to happen in another place. So symbolically, the film is trying to say it will never be resolved. It's a universal problem. During the investigation, seeing how all the people they find to interview are so reluctant to speak because of fear, because of pressure,
of course,
because they belong in a community and they're afraid of becoming outcasts. They fear for their lives. They get death threats. You know, they get pushed around.
That was even a line in All the President's Men. This is very big. It goes up to the top. Your lives are in danger.
Yeah.
And the part that was so good, Jason Robards playing Ben Bradley, the editor, he would say, get the facts, get everything, get cross-references, go for it. And so we want this to be right, this is bigger, keep digging. Michael Keaton in Spotlight was very inspired by that role. It's very good. Also, the director, Tim McCarthy. And the other thing, Chris Carter for the X-Files was quite influenced by All the President's Men. You remember X-Files? There's even a Deep Throat in that one. So
Deep Throat is like a general term now, designated to people who have top secret information and want to remain hidden.
That came from...
It came from there, yeah.
It came from there.
Yeah.
It was quite a good story, and it was so phenomenal.
How good is Jason Robards? And he won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars in 1976.
It was very good.
And the film also won Best Film of the Year in 1976. They were nominated for everything across the board.
It's good. They wanted him, Jason Robards, to be a presence, always in the newsroom. So they were doing scenes involving other people where he wasn't even involved in the scene. And they still had him sitting in his office just reading a book. It wasn't even in dialogue, in the proper active in the scene. He was just always there as a presence. Yeah. It was so good, so good. You know.
Well, he was afraid because, as he reveals later on in the movie, when he was hungry and younger, just like these two reporters, he made a huge mistake, and he almost lost his career. Since then, he has strived to maintain a level of quality and a level of integrity for the Washington Post.
Yeah.
Because at that time, the Washington Post was among America's most credible,
very
respected, prestigious publications.
Because he doggedly we saw this so importantly in the film. He doggedly told these two young reporters, I can't get over again, how young Redford and Hoffman looked. He said, look, we want to get this right. We want to get this perfect. We want to be, before we even publish, I know it's big, but it can be bigger. Check your facts, check everything, cross-check, get other sources, make sure it's right. They couldn't afford to get it wrong. And there's one particular shot which is incredible which is shown as a bit of a red herring, was where Robert Redford's taking a phone call, and we're seeing all this hustle and bustle going on in the newsroom, and then all of a sudden they're drawn to the television. There's something happened on the TV monitor. There's something going over there.
And he's oblivious.
And we're drawn to, when he's not, but we're taking, Pakula's fantastic director for this one.
Yeah.
We're drawn between what he's saying on this phone call for yet another interrogative interview with trying to find out some information, to find out what's on the screen that they're all looking at, and he pulls us away. There's always distractions going.
Always distractions.
Yeah, and some of the focus he has, so when you get the depth and the close ones together, you can see the whole thing, rather than just focus on the front with a soft background. It's great.
But you know, Spotlight happened when, in 2003?
2002.
When the film began, 2002.
When it happened, yeah.
So it started in 2002, that Spotlight investigation.
The investigation.
They had computers, they have everything, internet, everything. Yeah. In All the President's Men, they had typewriters, and they had to use pencils and notepads. The amount of...
No mobile phones?
Yeah, they had to go to the libraries to do research, you know. It's a much lengthier process.
All the lines they had, Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman and All the President's Men, all the things they had to say, apparently they memorized also each other's lines, so they could interrupt each other and know what's going on and follow the train of thought and get in and out and go this. And this absolutely blew the other actors, because it just really confused them. They didn't know what was going on, because they only knew their lines and how to react to lines when they're shouting across each other and going back and forth.
My favorite line was when Robert Redford noticed Dustin Hoffman was, he suspected Dustin Hoffman was copying his work. Comes up to his table, and he realized that Dustin Hoffman was just revising it and rewriting it in better English, because Robert Redford is the new guy in the newsroom. And I like what Robert Redford says to him. He goes, I don't mind what you did, I mind the way you did it. You know? It's the way you did it.
There's a bit of a difference. But,
and that's what started their friendship.
Good American accent.
Little, what's that?
Good American accent, yeah. Did I used to talk like that? Oh yeah. But, I mean, two great films, really. I mean, you look at the comparison, the procedural thing is so strong. It was very much like that in Spotlight. You really had to bit your wits and follow this. You got to be complicated. And Pakula was right, you know. So many films, you're spoon-fed. You see this in TV shows a lot. And the one character says the other, which is virtually telling you the exact plot developments. And they make it too easy. Challenging cinemas when you got to really keep your wits about you and follow it through. And these two films do that. So you reckon?
And there's very little music, if you notice, in All the President's Men and Spotlight.
It's more dramatic.
It's very dramatic, and it's patient. It develops its characters slowly, and you get to know them very well. And there's a sense of community and family in the newsroom. Everyone's looking after one another. Do you remember when they approached that woman because they find out...
All the President's Men?
In All the President's Men?
Yeah.
Remember they approached that woman, female reporter, the blonde one, who they find out she used to go out with one of the committee to re-elect the president members? They make her feel guilty about not using him to get that list of all the people in the committee. And then she ends up helping them because she feels that the number one priority is her work and helping them in their investigation.
It's very strong.
In Spotlight, that happened in Boston with the priests. It began there. How did it kind of become a national thing from there?
Well, exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. You start a bit of investigation, you uncover a little bit, and you saw Spotlight. It happens. Oh, well, what about this? I mean, what?
Yes,
88.
But the difference is
what? 88 priests? How could that be possible? Nail that. Confirm that. And they went down the whole line, and then it's beyond that, and it's beyond that. It's worldwide, and they uncovered that.
But even people in the newsroom in the Spotlight movie didn't want to believe that priests were involved in sexual abuse, and they did everything they could to protect them. So even in the newsroom, they had a lot of...
Why is that? Most of those reporters in Irish Boston were Roman Catholics themselves. You know, this is attacking their church and their beliefs. And it's so hard. They must have been conflicted with that. They're newspaper people, but also...
They were the most loved people, the priests in Boston. And it was very difficult for a lot of people to come out and secretly provide them with information.
Well, of course, we're talking about that before. People aren't going to be coming straight out when you have big, massive institutions like the White House and the Catholic Church, huge organizations. You just can't sort of come through those.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit despondent and say, well, how can I take them on? They're enormous. But they did, and it's this investigative journalism, and that's the sad thing about it. Investigative journalism is a dying breed now because everyone's got a blog and they write what they like on the internet. They just put it up there. They don't have to go through all the dogged research we saw, which is fantastic in Spotlight and President's Men. The way they just flog, get through, check your sources, check this, fact check that, cross check it, get it all down. Nowadays, you lose a lot of that. You read some of the local papers and you just wonder because good, real solid investigative factual journalism is...
Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, they're still active today, and they write a lot of bestsellers. In fact, Carl Bernstein wrote 12 #1 bestsellers. Bob Woodward spent a lot of time with George W. Bush, interviewing him and supporting him. And he's constantly being interviewed, even today, on television for his opinions and ideas about politics and just what's happening in America. So
people are still there. Like
I don't hear about them. I mean,
they're
incredible.
there. We're over here in Australia.
Yeah.
But they're there. Like, for example, we were talking before. The lead investigative reporter, the real passionate Mark Ruffalo character in Spotlight. This Mexican Latin director.
He's Latino. I don't know exactly what.
Well, Latino generally, He still works for the Globe. He's still going there, and he and a lot of the other actual Globe reporters were very instrumental and very supportive of helping them out and getting it factual.
Well, Bob Woodward, who Robert Redford plays in All the President's Men, he still works for the Washington Post sometimes. Whereas
He'd be
Carl,
pretty old now.
Yeah, he's pretty old.
Bernstein's more of a novelist.
Carl Bernstein, no, he works for Vanity Fair currently, and he also writes non-fiction books. They're both. Everyone's still active. It's incredible. They love their job, and it's because they love their job that they went that extra mile to uncover the truth.
But the key is the Ben Bradley character in The President's Men, and also we have in Spotlight the Lee Schreiber, the editor character, Liev. I'm not sure.
Very cold character.
But still, he was factually, he was right. He's a new guy.
He cared. He really cared.
And they didn't really, who is this new guy? He doesn't know. And he said, look, just follow through. We get it right. Much like Ben Bradley and the direction of these people.
And just like they said in Spotlight, only an outsider could do it. Because people who live in Boston, they would never initiate it because, the church is so prominent
in
that town. Just like Robert Redford. Robert Redford kind of gets the ball rolling with the investigation in All the President's Men. And he's the outsider because he's a recent employee. What about Rachel McAdams? She did an amazing job.
I don't know that she did.
She's so beautiful as well.
She's gorgeous, but that's a different story altogether. I don't know whether she should have been nominated for Best.
No, not nominated, but she was a standout. I mean, she did a lot of work.
She was nominated, Best Supporting Actor, but it was just a good role. It was a supportive role. It was a procedural role. I don't reckon it's a brilliant role. But the other thing, you were talking about the music before and some of the sound effects.
Stanley Tucci, another one.
Oh, he's a great actor.
He's a chameleon. I love him in every film he's in.
Underrated actor. But
he was great in The Pelican Brief as
the
assassin.
The other one, a Pukula film, with Denzel Washington and Julia Roberts, with him as well. But what I was trying to say is some of the sound effects are so important. It gets so dramatic. Remember the very beginning of All the President's Men? We have the typewriters going over the credits.
And the typewriter ends the movie as well.
But those beginning ones, I'm not sure about the end, but the beginning ones were enhanced by whiplash and gunshots to make it a little bit more dramatic.
Because once that ink hits the paper, it's getting printed.
That's it.
You know what I mean? It's
phenomenal.
It's quite powerful.
Phenomenal films. But
and I love in the movie The Paper, the other Michael Keaton movie. It shows you the whole process of how newspapers are made, how they go through the machines, how they get cut up and spun. And
the actual printing.
The whole printing. It's such an amazing process. And do you remember in The Paper, Michael Keaton, because of his ethic and moral dilemma somewhere in the movie, he decides to stop the printing midway.
He did, yeah. Stop
in order
it cold.
to stop the story.
Hold
from
the
going
presses.
through. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
It's a
he go down
brilliant
there,
scene.
click, clack, clack, and then he just all ground to a halt. You got to stop. Yeah.
But speaking of Pulitzer Prizes, another great movie that was based on a true story was The Killing Fields. Sidney Schanberg
wow.
won the Pulitzer Prize for his piece in the New York, I think it was New York Times,
I'm not sure
about what
which one,
happened in Cambodia and Pol Pot's regime, and how his friend Sith Pran was stuck there in the killing fields because he didn't have a passport to get out of Cambodia.
He brought all that out, and it came from a
That's another brilliant movie.
More dogged investigation. Although that film was a bit more than that.
Yeah,
but,
Rolf Joffe made that film. And also there was The Year of Living Dangerously with Peter
great
Weir.
Australian film.
Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver. And it's set in Jakarta, in Indonesia during the whole revolution and turmoil that took place.
Australian cinema, that one.
It just shows another dark facet of that industry. How there are newspapers out there like Rupert Murdoch hacking people's phones, celebrities' phones, in order to learn about.
There's always dark things going on. But on top of that, there's the good and the bad.
There are people out there who are.
We got people like Bernstein Woodward and his fantastic people in the spotlight.
Dedicated to tell the
really
truth.
going through it. As I said before, the journalism, real dogged investigative journalism is unfortunately dying. The finance, budgets, it's an internet world. So.
But you watch films like that, they don't only inspire you, but they make you believe again in people.
Yeah, how can they not?
You know what I mean?
That's good.
They remind you that there are people out there who really do love their jobs, who are dedicated to telling the truth. And if those people out there exist, there is hope for humanity.
Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Honesty is hardly ever heard, and mostly what I need from you. I can always find someone to say they sympathize if I wear my heart out on my sleeve. But I don't want some pretty face to tell me pretty lies. All I want is someone to